Hello, I'm Yayan and I paint with oil pastels and I do food poster layouts. Quite an art mix, but you'll see. Welcome to my channel. In this video, if you are new or want to refresh about oil pastels, welcome again. Came to the right place. This is a beginner's tutorial video where I'll share to you basic techniques including blending, etching, stippling, and many more. You've probably seen other beginner tutorials, but here you'll see a lot of examples per approach, saving you a lot of time and effort and giving you all the basic essential ideas you need to know. So, before I begin, I will introduce to you the two oil pastel brands I will use. One professional brand and one student grade brand, so it's easy to relate with whatever you have on hand. So first, the student grade brand I'll be using is the Pastels oil pastel. They are perfect for beginners. These oil pastels are soft, vibrant, and they are cheaper compared to professional brands. If you are using these brands, it will be similar to the Pastels oil pastels. The other brand I'll be using that is used by the professionals is the Mungyo Gallery oil pastels. They have a wider color range, they are softer, smoother, and easier to blend with than student grade oil pastels. What I like with this brand is they are relatively cheaper than other artist quality brands. If you are using these brands, they will be quite similar to the quality and consistency of the Mungyo Gallery oil pastels. Next thing you need to know is I'll be using a lot of papers like regular sketch pads, oil pastel papers, and felt papers. You can actually use any kind of paper for most of the techniques you'll see here. In addition to the oil pastels, I'll be using a variety of materials like barbecue sticks, cutter, masking tape, cotton buds, tissue, baby oil, to name a few. So now, without further delays, we'll start with etching. Etching is also known as sgraffito or Italian for scratch. It is basically layering up dark-colored oil pastels on top of light-colored oil pastels and then using a stick or scratching medium to reveal the colors below. Here are some drawings done with etching. Again, as you can see, light colors first, dark colors after, then scratch with a barbecue stick to reveal the colors below. Next, here are some basic exercises you can practice with etching. Using a regular sketch pad, start off by coloring 4 squares with any light color you have. Next is painting the squares over with black. Again, you can use any brand of oil pastel for these exercises. Scratch off the black top layer to show the colors below. You can do different basic styles like hatching, scribbling, stippling, and pointillism. Lastly, I'll be doing 2 long rectangular gradients of color and scratch it with different linear and scribbling strokes. Okay, fun tip for you. The paper I'm using in this exercise is a regular sketch paper. And as you can see, when getting the tape out, the paper gets peeled off. This is common. One way to remedy this is by putting a white color oil pastel first on the areas you'll be putting masking tape on. So when you remove it, the tape will peel off easily, like magic. So now, here's one more bonus exercise you can do. Alright, for your additional reference, some examples for you to see how a Mungyo oil pastel behaves differently versus a Pastels oil pastel with this technique. As you can see, there is a noticeable difference with the professional grade showing more contrast, creamier blending of colors, and more detailed finished look when used in this technique. And of course, please subscribe and hit that bell button to be notified when I upload new videos. Going back to etching, for my last example, here's a drawing of mine of a fox. And here, I use a cutter to scrape off the top layer colors so I can achieve finer lines for the hair and some other very minute details. So, yes, exciting learnings. Next is stippling. It's kind of a broad technique using pointillism, short strokes, scribbles, to name a few. In pointillism, you draw or shade by using dots. Hatching, on the other hand, is creating shades by using lines, and cross-hatching is crossing the lines together to create different shades and hues. Lastly, the scribbling and shading you see here is more of using circular and sometimes random directions of lines to convey an image or shading. So here are some drawings using this technique. And now here's an example of a classic painting called Screen, done with stippling. Alright, so before the next technique, please leave comments for your questions or your clarifications down below. I'll try my best to answer them for the best of your learning. Next, Color Blending 101. We'll start with 16 squares. Bear with me. You'll save a lot of time if you watch this. For the first square, with the lighter color on hand, press with heavy pressure from the outer end, easing to a slightly lighter pressure going to the middle part of the square. Repeat it again with a darker color from the other end of the square. Again, with heavy pressure, then going with lighter and lighter pressure to the middle. Finally, using the lighter of the two colors to mix the colors on the middle part of the square. You can do it horizontally, vertically, irregularly, or however you like. The next squares, I'll fast forward it and just repeat it with other primary and secondary colors being blended for you to see. For the next 4 squares, you can see how to blend using cotton, tissue, and oil. For a little bit of facts and history, oil pastels were invented in Japan to teach young children how to color. It was made for school children to practice different painting techniques like surrealism and expressionism without the messy and time-consuming paints. 20 years later, and after the World War II, Pablo Picasso, a famous abstract painter way back that time, approached a popular paint store in Paris where the likes of Van Gogh and Matisse buy their coloring materials. The paint store was called Sennelier, and Picasso asked them to create the first professional line of oil pastels for him to use, as during this time, he was traveling often and he would prefer to use dry painting mediums to use on his travels, giving more popularity to the oil pastels we use today. Hence, going forward, oil pastels are not paint, they're not colored pencils or crayons, they're something very unique and somewhere in between. Here are some samples how you can use thick oil pastels with a palette knife to show snowy mountain tops and bricks. Aside from the different blending materials you've just seen, of course, one of the best ways to blend is through your fingers. Although, an added warning for you, there are some colors in the professional artist brands containing toxic materials like cadmium that should be handled with caution. But don't worry, student-grade brands are generally safe to use with this finger-style technique. As a rule of thumb, just wash your hands after you use oil pastels. So from the previous examples, I used regular paper and oil pastel papers. Now, we'll use a special kind of paper. And this is the felt paper, otherwise known as velvet paper or velour paper. These are some of the artworks did with felt paper. As you can see, with the right kind of strokes, you'll achieve a velvety and kind of a silk-like effect. They provide a unique kind of tooth, giving the stroke a distinct feel and appearance. And one last thing I want to share to you is you can use and combine all of these basic techniques and complement it with stencils using masking tapes. With this technique, you can do trendy designs you commonly see, like Photoshop, double exposure artworks, and many more that can help you create different angles to your composition. And to end, here's a bunch of other works for you to see using a mix of everything you've learned in this video. Hope you like it, and again, Please subscribe and hit the bell button for notifications. And lastly, in the words of my grandmother, please share or plant the fruit tree as an appreciation.